In the quiet towns of 19th-century Japan, long before neon lights and bullet trains, a strange figure bent over gears, pulleys, and springs. He was not a magician, though his devices performed miracles. His name was Hisashige Tanaka, and though history might know Toshiba as a modern tech giant, few remember the man who wound the first spring in its story. He did not start with factories or electricity. He began with dolls. At a time when much of the world was charging into the industrial age, Japan remained a country apart. The Tokugawa shogunate had enforced a policy of near-total seclusion for over 2 centuries. Foreign ships were turned away at its shores. Christianity was banned. Outside ideas filtered through only one sanctioned point of contact, an artificial island called Dejima, off the coast of Nagasaki, where a small contingent of Dutch traders were allowed limited, controlled access to the Japanese elite. It was into this world, in 1799, that Hisashige Tanaka was born in Kurume, a castle town nestled on the southern island of Kyushu. The town was known for its samurai traditions, its quiet discipline, and the winding rivers that flowed past its temples and black-tiled roofs. His family belonged to the lower samurai class, skilled in craftsmanship. From a young age, Tanaka showed signs of unusual concentration. While other children played with tops and paper kites, he disassembled clockworks, examined bamboo joints, and watched birds with a kind of mechanical fascination. Somehow, despite the barriers of time and distance, a whisper from Europe reached him. No one knows exactly how. Perhaps it was through the oral tales of Nagasaki's traders. Perhaps a copied page from a Dutch scientific text slipped past censors. Or maybe, as some legends suggest, Tanaka simply imagined what no one had yet seen. Whatever the source, he learned of the automata, mechanical figures that moved, performed, bowed, and danced in the salons and courts of Europe. To the young Tanaka, this was not simply entertainment. It was a calling. He began to experiment with his own creations, karakuri ninjyo, or mechanical dolls, a Japanese tradition with roots stretching back to the 1600s but which he would revolutionize. These were not lifeless toys. They were philosophical machines, bridges between motion and soul. At 15, he built a doll that could serve tea. It moved with such precision, such grace, that those who saw it thought it possessed. The doll would glide forward on hidden wheels, pause, bow respectfully, and offer a ceramic cup. When the tea was lifted, it turned and rolled back to its starting place. Each of Tanaka's creations required months of planning and endless nights of tuning spring tensions, sanding wood to the right texture, and hiding tiny brass cams in silk sleeves. One of his most famous was a calligraphy writing doll, which could dip its brush in ink and write full Japanese characters on rice paper with near-human flourish. No electricity. No batteries. Only cleverly wound springs, weights, and gears. These devices contained no secrets but still managed to evoke mystery. By his early 20s, Tanaka's fame had spread beyond Kurume. He was summoned to perform for daimyo lords and local governors, each astonished by the silent poetry of his machines. But for Tanaka, spectacle was never the end goal. He believed in learning, in the potential of mechanical life not to replace the human spirit, but to imitate it, to study it, to honor it, the world around him, however, was changing. Japan's long isolation was fraying at the edges. By the 1850s, foreign ships, black-hulled and smoke-billowing, began appearing on the horizon. In 1853, Commodore Matthew Perry arrived with American gunboats, demanding the opening of Japanese ports. For many, this signaled danger and humiliation. For Tanaka, it signaled opportunity. He moved to Osaka, then to Edo, modern-day Tokyo, turning his attention to the new forces of the age, steam and electricity. He immersed himself in Dutch and English technical manuals, painstakingly translated and passed hand to hand among scholars. Where once he built dolls that mimicked life, he now built engines that could shape the future. In 1853, the same year Perry dropped anchor in Uraga Bay, Tanaka completed a working steam engine, one of Japan's first. It hissed and turned in his workshop like a thing alive, its piston arms pushing against centuries of stasis. In the following years, he constructed prototypes of telegraph machines, alarm systems, and even early firefighting devices that sprayed pressurized water using steam power. His mind expanded alongside the tools he studied, yet he never abandoned the aesthetic and precision of his earlier mechanical art. In 1875, at the age of 76, when most men of his time would have long retired, Tanaka founded Tanaka Seisakusho, a small company focused on building telegraph equipment and electrical devices. It was modest at first, a few skilled apprentices, a small factory, a table covered in blueprints and brass filings. But this factory, born from a craftsman's dream and a poet's patience, would become the seat of something far larger. Over the next decades, through mergers and national contracts, Tanaka Seisakusho evolved into what the world would come to know as Toshiba. It would become a titan of Japanese industry, producing everything from home electronics to nuclear reactors. But buried deep within its origin was that same spirit, a vision not of power, but of grace, of movement, of machines that could enchant as well as function. Tanaka lived to see the world transformed. He passed away in 1881. Well into his 80s, having lived through the collapse of the Tokugawa shogunate, the rise of the Meiji Restoration, and the electrification of Japan. The imperial court honored him for his inventions. His apprentices carried forward his legacy, and some of his original karakuri dolls still survive in museums, astonishing modern engineers with their ingenuity. He is sometimes called the Thomas Edison of Japan, but the comparison falls short. Edison brought light, but Tanaka brought motion that felt alive. Edison was an industrialist. Tanaka was a philosopher of gears. His story carries the weight of fable but remains factual. It's the story of a man who lived between two eras, one defined by woodblock prints and cherry blossoms, the other by metal, steam, and Morse code, and found a way to bridge them with wonder. Today, in our world of digital speed and disposable devices, where machines obey but rarely charm, Tanaka's creations still whisper to us from the past. They tell us that technology need not be cold, that machines can be graceful, that innovation, at its best, should stir the soul as well as solve the problem. So the next time you see the Toshiba name glowing on a screen or etched onto a battery, pause for a moment. Imagine a quiet room in old Kurume, lit by oil lamp, where a man with ink-stained fingers places the final gear inside a wooden doll. He winds the spring, gently sets it down, and watches it glide forward, bowing politely, serving tea, and reminding us that even in circuits and steel, there can be poetry.